Hello, Aaron back here again with the Raspberry Pi version 2 build, and the last video I had was about the controls. So that was kind of wiring up these controls here to the Pi with the Lynx header. So at this point we have our controls wired up, we've got the screen hooked up. The next step I need to do is probably start getting some things installed in the case, like the SD card relocator, and then the audio is probably the next most important thing, and then the power, of course. So let's move on to the SD card here. Let's talk a little bit about that, since that's going to take a little bit of time. I'm not going to show everything live or as I do it, just because it's going to take quite a bit of time to do. But we have our back shell here, and you can see we have the cartridge slot in the back, and the Pi is going to sit right in this area right below the cartridge slot. So I want to relocate the SD card to this back cartridge slot, so it's kind of like, you know, a factory thing and it's easy to get to. So to do that, I'm going to have to somehow move the SD card slot, and there are several ways to do this. They make extension cables. I'm going to build my own extension cable, and mainly just because I have some things for a project here. So I bought this MicroSD card sniffer board. I can sort of show here. And these are like $1 something, but basically they've got a MicroSD card slot on them, a pin header soldering point for all of the connections, and then they plug into an SD card slot. So you can basically monitor the SD card. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to cut the SD card piece off. And then I've scraped the traces at the bottom here. You can kind of see it. I scraped along here. And I'm going to solder basically a ribbon cable to all of those pins. And then I'm going to run that ribbon cable and hook them up into these pins. And then what I end up with is I end up with a SD card slot, a small ribbon cable, and then an SD card that can plug into the side of my Pi. So basically, from looking here, my Pi is going to be right here. So I'm going to have the SD card, it comes out here. So that's going to plug in, and then the ribbon will go underneath, and then this will sit just kind of like this. And we're going to have to do a little bit of trimming here, but basically this is going to sit right in this bezel right here, or this cartridge slot, and then we'll be able to just, I'm going to just push this through a little bit for video's sake, but we'll be able to put the card in whenever we want to, just like that, and then we'll be able to eject it. I could fill these holes with some black silicone or some sort of material, but I'm going to leave them open, and the reason being is that, you know what, the Pi generates a lot of heat, so this is kind of a nice little vent. So kind of a double purpose. But what I'm going to do by putting this in here, this will actually kind of double as a shelf, and the Pi is literally going to sit right on top of this guy. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do some trimming. I got to cut this off, and then I need to trim the end of this board down, because if you look at it, it kind of sticks out past the slot. I don't really want the thing to stick out into the back of the case, because you know, then you'd see it like this, and that just kind of looks a little tacky. But okay, so I'm going to do that, then I will show fitting it.